Caitlyn Clark didn't just enter the WNBA, she detonated it. Records shattered, TV ratings skyrocketing, jerseys flying off shelves, and arenas overflowing. The NCAA's all-time leading scorer, the most hyped prospect in history.
In an historic first, the NCAA and nation's Power 5 conferences have reached a deal to pay their athletes.
Arrived with a force the league had never seen. But this isn't just a story of numbers. It's a story of tension, jealousy, and a league forced to reckon with a new reality. They call it the Caitlyn Clark effect. One player, one season, and in an entire sport would never be the same. Reality is coming before Clark ever suited up for Indiana. The pushback started. Diana Taurasi, the WNBA's all-time leading scorer and a 20-year veteran of the Phoenix Mercury, was asked on ESPN's SportsCenter what the league would have in store for Clark. Her response became the defining quote of the preseason. Reality is coming. There's levels to this thing. You look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds. But you're going to come play with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time.
Caitlyn Clark, one of the most dynamic players in the country, and I've always said all year she's a blend of Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi.
It wasn't said with malice necessarily. Taurasi had lived through her own brutal rookie adjustment in 2004. She knew the WNBA was a different animal, but the comment landed like a grenade in the discourse. Reduced to its first three words, reality is coming, it became the rallying cry for everyone who wanted Clark to be humbled. Everyone who thought the hype was overblown. To everyone who believed the media was anointing a player who hadn't proven anything at the professional level. And the media itself was divided. Some analysts argued that Clark was being given a level of attention that A.J. Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and other established stars had never received despite multiple championships and MVP awards. The framing was often loaded. Why does Clark get the magazine covers when Wilson has been the best player in the league for years? Why do networks suddenly care about the WNBA now, when they ignored it for decades? These were legitimate questions. They deserved honest answers. But they also served a gatekeeping function. They suggested that Clark's popularity was somehow unearned, that the attention was misplaced, that the league would be fine without her. The ratings said otherwise. Clark's WNBA debut drew 2.12 million viewers. That single game attracted more eyeballs than any WNBA broadcast since 2001. And that was just the beginning. Over the course of the 2024 season, 21 games featuring Clark drew more than 1 million viewers. Before that season, no WNBA broadcast had reached that number since 2008. Not one, in 16 years. The denial phase was short, because the evidence was overwhelming. But what came next was harder. Fouled but rising. The Fever opened the 2024 season with a brutal stretch. One win in their first 9 games. Clark was adjusting to the speed, the physicality, and a roster that hadn't been built to complement her style of play. She set the WNBA record for single-season turnovers. She committed 10 in her debut alone, one shy of the all-time single-game record.
Clark has done it again, trending in sports. The Indiana Fever rookie in the WNBA set another scoring record.
The critics had their ammunition, but it wasn't just the stat sheet that told the story of those early weeks. It was the physicality. The tone on the court shifted when Clark was involved. Hard fouls, body checks, the kind of contact that felt, to many observers, like it went beyond normal rookie treatment. The Chicago Sky games became the flashpoint. The rivalry between Clark and the Sky, fueled by the college history with Reese and intensified by Chennedy Carter's now infamous hard foul, produced the most-watched WNBA games in over 2 decades. The June matchup drew 2.25 million viewers on CBS. The very next week, the two teams averaged 2.3 million on ESPN. These weren't just good numbers. They were historic numbers. And this is where everything got complicated. Clark was simultaneously the most fouled and the most watched player in the league. She was carrying the Fever's record on her shoulders while absorbing more physical punishment than any other guard. And she rarely complained. When Carter knocked her to the floor on an off-ball play, Clark's response in the press conference was 3 words: basketball's competitive. When she was left off the U.S. Olympic roster, despite being the biggest name in the sport, She said it gave her something to work for. That maturity at 22 years old was remarkable, but it also masked the emotional toll. Clark was playing more minutes than almost any guard in the league while being the focal point of every opponent's game plan, every media cycle, and every social media debate. The Fever were losing, the fouls kept coming, and the discourse around her was becoming increasingly toxic. But here's what the anger phase obscured. While the debates raged, Clark was getting better, measurably, undeniably better. After the Olympic break, she averaged 23.1 points per game, a mark that would have ranked second in the entire league over a full season, behind only A'ja Wilson. She set the WNBA single-game assist record with 19 against the Dallas Wings. She was learning the league in real time, and the league was learning that it couldn't stop her. So you're bargaining with bias. When the on-court resistance didn't slow Clark down, the narrative shifted. The conversation moved off the hardwood and into the territory that every sports discourse dreads: identity politics. The question stopped being whether Clark was good and became why she was popular. And the answers people offered said more about the state of American culture than about basketball. Was Clark getting outsized attention because she was talented, or because she was a white player in a predominantly black league? Was the media fascination genuine, or was it driven by the same demographic biases that have always shaped sports coverage in this country? Were the new fans showing up for the WNBA because they loved women's basketball, or because they finally saw someone who looked like them? These are uncomfortable questions. They are also not new. Every sport in America eventually confronts them. And the way those questions were wielded in the Clark discourse was often reductive. Clark's defenders dismissed any mention of race as an attempt to diminish her accomplishments. Clark's critics argued that ignoring race was itself a form of privilege. Both sides had points. Neither had the full picture. What got lost in the bargaining phase was nuance. Clark could be both an exceptional talent and a beneficiary of systemic attention patterns.
Cunningham is down behind the play, but they've got Caitlyn Clark to fire away from three.
Why the WNBA could be both grateful for the revenue surge and justified in pointing out the uneven spotlight. Angel Reese could be both a legitimate star and someone whose impact on viewership was fundamentally different from Clark's. All of these things could be true simultaneously, but nuance doesn't trend on social media. And so the discourse hardened. It got hotter, lines got drawn, and the actual basketball, the breathtaking passes, the logo threes, and the historic assist numbers sometimes felt like a sideshow to the culture war being fought in the comments section. Clark, for her part, almost never engaged with it. She talked about basketball. She praised her teammates. She deflected loaded questions with a composure that would have been impressive in a 10-year veteran, let alone a rookie. Time magazine recognized her as one of its most influential athletes. The broader culture was paying attention in a way the WNBA had never experienced. But inside the discourse bubble, people were still arguing about why. The league was bargaining with reality, trying to find a way to accept the windfall without accepting its source, trying to spread the credit around, trying to reshape the narrative so that no single player could be bigger than the institution. But the numbers were about to make that impossible. Numbers don't lie. This is where the conversation moves from opinion to arithmetic. And arithmetic doesn't care about narratives. The Indiana Fever averaged 17,035 fans per home game in 2024. That is an all-time WNBA record for any team. The previous season, the Fever had averaged 4,067, the second worst in the league. That is not a marginal increase. That is a 319% spike in 1 year because of one player. But it wasn't just Indiana. Every single WNBA team saw attendance increase in 2024. League-wide averages reached their highest point since 1999, the league's third year of existence. Multiple teams moved Fever road games to larger arenas to meet demand. The Fever's presence nearly doubled crowd sizes on the road.
Clark set single-season rookie records for points, assists.
Games featuring Clark averaged 15,591 fans compared to 7,645 without her, a 105% boost just by showing up. Television was even more dramatic. ESPN's WNBA coverage was up 170% over the previous season. 6 different networks set records for their most-watched WNBA game. All 6 of those record-setting broadcasts featured Clark. Her games averaged 1.18 million viewers per broadcast. Non-Clark WNBA games averaged 394,000. That is a 3-to-1 ratio. And this is where it gets interesting. The financial infrastructure of the league began to reshape itself around this reality. Fever home games were moved to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and games were relocated to arenas with NBA-level capacity. Indiana's franchise valuation jumped to an estimated $90 million, despite having the second-worst revenue in the league just the year before. The preseason alone drew 1.3 million viewers for Fever games, a number that many NBA preseason broadcasts would envy. 41 nationally televised games featured Indiana in 2024. 36 of the Fever's 40 regular season games aired on national television. That level of coverage puts even the Dallas Cowboys to shame. And every single one of those broadcasts was justified by the ratings. Clark's rookie jersey became the best-selling in WNBA history and the second best-selling basketball jersey in the United States, trailing only Steph Curry. WNBA player merchandise sales surged by a reported 1,000% year-over-year. Her draft quadrupled viewership. Her All-Star game doubled the previous record. Here is the math the league could not escape. Before Clark, no WNBA game had drawn 1 million viewers since 2008. In her first season alone, she was involved in 20 of the 23 games that broke that barrier. The other 3, they were a rounding error. You can debate narratives. You can debate privilege. You can debate who built the foundation, but you cannot debate revenue. And the revenue said one thing clearly. This is the most economically impactful rookie in the history of American women's professional sports, and possibly in the history of any American professional sport. From resistance, respect, and then, slowly, the tone changed. Taurasi, the same woman who had warned Clark that reality was coming, sat across from her after a Fever win over the Mercury and said something very different. She called what Clark had accomplished in her short career nothing short of remarkable. She praised her love for the game. She said her future was super bright.
Caitlyn, you had an amazing rookie season. Like, you just blew everyone out of the water. When you watch Paige play and you see her in the next level.
ESPN's Scott Van Pelt, who had been in the room when Taurasi made the original comment, declared on SportsCenter that Taurasi had it wrong. He said Clark should be called the reality because she came, and she was here. That's when the league realized it had passed through something. The Fever went on to finish 2020 an extraordinary turnaround from their 1-8 start. They clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2016, ending the longest drought in WNBA history. Clark finished the season averaging 19.2 points and 8.4 assists per game, both rookie records. She set the WNBA single-season assist record. She was unanimously named AP Rookie of the Year and selected to the All-WNBA first team. Indiana's front office responded to the moment with precision. In the offseason, the Fever signed DeWanna Bonner, a 16-year veteran with 2 WNBA championships. They added Natasha Howard, a former Defensive Player of the Year. They traded for Sophie Cunningham, a tough wing shooter who would give the roster the edge it had been missing. They retained Kelsey Mitchell, their other All-Star caliber guard.
The Indiana Fever select Kelsey Mitchell from The Ohio State University.
These weren't lottery team moves. These were championship moves. Moves made because the franchise now had the resources and the relevance to attract top talent. Because of Clark, the 2025 season opened with Clark recording a triple-double against the Chicago Sky in the very first game. 20 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds. She became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 750 points, 250 rebounds, and 250 assists in a career. She was named an All-Star captain with the most fan votes in WNBA history, 1,293,526. The All-Star game was scheduled at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Her building, her city, her moment. Even the international basketball community felt the pull. When Clark's Iowa homecoming game was announced for the 2025 season, it sold out in 37 minutes. Resale prices averaged $670. Fans traveled an average of nearly 250 miles to attend. And then there was the moment that crystallized everything. The Brazil women's national basketball team, visiting the United States, asked Clark for a group photograph, not the other way around. An entire national team wanted a selfie with a 23-year-old guard from Des Moines, Iowa. That is the kind of cultural gravity that belongs to a very short list of athletes. Michael Jordan had it. Serena had it. Messi has it. And now, in the world of women's basketball, Caitlyn Clark has it. The acceptance phase wasn't about the league admitting it was wrong. It was about the league recognizing that fighting this was pointless. The wave was too big to resist. The only rational move was to ride it. Clark changed everything. Here is the truth that every WNBA player, executive, and broadcaster eventually had to confront. Caitlyn Clark did not take anything from the league. She gave it something the league had been chasing for 28 years. An audience. Not a niche audience. Not a sympathy audience. Not a casual crowd that only shows up during the finals and disappears. A real, sustained, commercially viable audience that watches regular season games on a Tuesday night in June, buys jerseys, fills arenas, and debates point guard play on social media as if it truly matters, because now it does. The numbers tell the story. Clark's collegiate career at the University of Iowa shattered records and expectations alike, culminating in an NCAA tournament run in 2024 that made ESPN executives question everything they thought they knew about women's sports. The Elite Eight matchup between Iowa and Angel Reese's LSU drew 12.3 million viewers, a record for a women's college basketball game, while the Final Four semifinal against UConn pulled 14.2 million viewers, making it the most-watched basketball game in ESPN history, men's or women's. The championship game against South Carolina on ABC brought 18.7 million viewers into living rooms across the country. These were not just impressive stats, they were a cultural earthquake. When the Indiana Fever selected Clark as the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, anticipation transformed into reality. The draft itself attracted 2.45 million viewers, a 374% increase from the previous year. Clark's jersey became the fastest-selling rookie jersey in league history, second only to Stephen Curry nationally. Her Instagram following skyrocketed from 1.2 million to over 3 million, and season tickets sold out faster than any previous Fever campaign. Road arenas scrambled to accommodate the surge in demand. The phrase Caitlyn Clark effect entered sports lexicon before she even played a professional game. Yet this unprecedented attention also brought a current of skepticism. Veteran players who had spent years cultivating the WNBA in relative obscurity wondered if one player was receiving disproportionate credit. The reality was more complex. Clark's arrival coincided perfectly with the league's readiness for wider visibility, and her extraordinary skill and marketable personality made the perfect storm. Her presence did not overshadow the league's other stars. It amplified the entire ecosystem. Aja Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, and others continued to shine, but Clark moved the needle in a way no single player had before. In 2025, Clark's season was complicated by injuries, including groin and quad issues that limited her to 13 games before an early September shutdown. The immediate impact was visible. Viewership dipped without her. Arenas that had been swelling suddenly felt emptier, and the Fever had to navigate a 13-12 record without their engine. Yet, this vulnerability underscored the broader truth about star-driven growth in sports. Leagues expand through iconic talents, Jordan in the NBA, Federer in tennis, Tiger Woods in golf. Not through parity. Stars create attention, revenue, and cultural relevance, and the infrastructure eventually catches up. Thanks to Clark, the WNBA now inhabits that reality. Attendance across teams is rising, ratings are stronger, merchandise sales are booming. When in the upcoming 2026 collective bargaining agreement will reflect revenue numbers that were unimaginable just 5 years ago. Clark didn't ask the league to accept her. She made acceptance inevitable. She gave the WNBA not just a moment, but a lasting framework for growth, proving that a single player at the right time can rewrite the story of an entire league. The Caitlyn Clark effect is far from over. Every shot she takes, every game she plays, is reshaping the league in ways no one fully understands yet. The WNBA is watching, the fans are watching, and history itself is taking notes. Will this era become a dynasty, or will the weight of expectation prove too much, even for a talent like hers? One thing is clear, the rules have changed, the balance of power has shifted, and the next chapter will test everything the league thought it knew. The question isn't whether Caitlyn Clark can change the game, it's whether the game can keep up with her.